y'all. Welcome to the City Limitless podcast, where we go beyond Mesa city boundaries. I'm your host, Ashley, and today our guest has some very notable ties to the film industry and Arizona. I'd like to introduce to you Matthew Earl Jones.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Matthew Earl Jones is a director at the Arizona Office of Film and Digital Media. He is a very well-known producer and actor throughout the film, television, and music industry. In his 33 years of production, Matthew has touched audiences around the world in markets like Japan, New York, Los Angeles, and even here in Arizona. To name a few of his recent credits, Matthew was a line producer on an indie feature, Manifest Destiny Down. He was also an APOC in Arizona on the Furious 7 set, and a celebrity judge on Arizona Idol in Phoenix.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, was it?
That was a lot of fun.
Well, I can't wait to talk.
A lot of local talent here.
I can't wait to talk more about that.
That was fun.
He has also produced over 50 national and international commercials, working with household names like Queen Latifah, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Ray Charles, just to name a few. Other notable companies that Matthew has worked with are Toyota, Home Depot, and Macdonald's. And once again, welcome, Matthew. We're excited to have you today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into this. So you are in Mesa, Arizona for the Film Fest.
Yes.
That we are hosting. Tell us a little bit about that.
The director is a dear friend of mine. He's a fellow tri-state, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. So we immediately bonded. He does a lot of great work. As you know, he did the Mesa Music Festival.
Yes.
And so from that, he's parlayed into the Mesa Film Festival, which as the film commissioner, we're very, very supportive. And I see a lot of synergies and things happening here in Mesa, what with ASU setting up a $100 million facility here, and the things happening in Arizona. So he asked me would I come, and I said of course. And so when you asked me would I say a few words, I was thrilled to do so.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, Mesa, we're typically known for spring training, but other than that, what stood out about Mesa to bring the Film Fest to this town in Arizona?
Well, I wouldn't want to speak for Indian because that was his decision, of course, but I knew of Mesa years ago before I took this job, so we're going back probably 15 years. I've been in Arizona for 21 years. We did a clean hip-hop project with DMC from Run DMC at the salt mine.
Okay.
So we brought talented young people from all over the country. There was a competition, and the criteria was there was no profanity, no degrading women, no glorifying drug use, and no glorifying violence. And those were the only parameters that we gave them. And it was really more of a return to almost like street poetry, as opposed to a lot of what you hear now, not to date myself. And of course, everybody knows Run DMC. And I was a huge Aerosmith fan, so when they did Walk This Way, I was in heaven. I was like, that was my introduction to hip-hop music.
Absolutely.
So, but what I noticed is we had them here for about 10 days. So we locked out the salt mine, and the kids would come back, when they weren't recording, they would go out in the town, they would go into the restaurants, and they kept saying how wonderful it was, how welcome they felt, what a good time they were having, how friendly the people were, and they were total strangers, and they're walking around. And I also filmed someone at the Mesa Performing Arts Center. So I actually knew of Mesa and had actually worked here twice long before I was film commissioner and long before ASU had this huge presence here.
Hey, it only makes sense that you guys are here for Film Fest now.
Of course.
Absolutely. So what are some highlights that are going to be standing out this year for you at the Mesa Film Fest?
Well, in addition to hoping to enjoy some great films, and unfortunately, usually when I'm here, I end up, not getting to see any of the films. And so Indian has said he'll make sure that I get links to them because I do enjoy films. But it's, part of my job is to welcome filmmakers and to obviously tell them what's going on in Arizona and the fact that now for the first time in 13 years, we have tax incentives. We've spent 7 years building out the infrastructure again. There's this huge Sidney Poitier Film School here, which I've already toured it a couple of times. I lost my intern from the film office to the Mix Center, but that was fair. He was an ASU graduate, so I can't say I lost him. I guess I had to return him back, and now he's going to grad school. But I think that this is, as I said, there's a synergy, and I hope that we can, during the festival, I hope I get a chance to see some movies. I doubt that. But I do hope that I get to meet some of the talented filmmakers who come here. And obviously, as part of my job working for government, we have to give the Arizona value proposition. So obviously we'll be doing that. But I think, Arizona has always been a great place to shoot. We've got the most diverse topography. We're an hour flight from LA. I mean, we have a lot of things going for us. And what I see happening now, and I think that one of the most important things that the film school will do here is that we will retain young creative people here. I think that in the past, a lot of people have felt they could learn their craft in Arizona, but they had to go leave the state to practice it. Mm-hmm. And I think that in the recent years, I'm seeing young people realize that's not necessarily so. So for any young people that are watching, since everyone's leaving LA and moving here, let me save you a trip. So instead of going to LA and paying like 3 times the amount of expenses,
make your initial pit stop here.
Stay here. It's a very dynamic time, I think, for film, and you have a lot of technologies changing. And I think that young people are on the cutting edge. My 17-year-old daughter shows me how to program my iPhone. So for people of my generation, we would have to unlearn analog and really embrace digital. And I think that young people now, they're hitting the ground running. And when I took this job, I said that one of my priorities would be is stopping the brain drain. We have, I think, people as creative as any place on the planet. The thing is to make them aware of the opportunities here so they don't feel they have to leave the state. And so I hope, anytime I go to a film festival, I try to, obviously to filmmakers who aren't from here, we try to get them to shoot their next movie here. That's kind of part of the job. But what film festivals really do is it kind of ups the level of appreciation for film just across all segments of the population. So hopefully people who attend the film festival and have dreams of having their movie on the Jumbotron will realize they don't have to go to LA or New York to do that.
Yeah, bring it to Mesa.
Bring it to Mesa.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about your day-to-day and what your role entails and what you do for the Film Fest here.
I'm blessed to be able to be a civilian at the Film Fest and not have to do any of the work, it's a lot of work putting on a film festival, as you know. I mean, and a lot of it is thankless work. But at the end of the day, I say he's doing God's work. What I get to do at the film festival is, again, kind of be a brand ambassador for Arizona. What my day job is, and I think you being part of Visit Mesa will understand that. So what tourism does in terms of you promote an area and you ask people to come here and spend their tourism dollars, come here and visit the sites, get hotels, visit the restaurants, rent cars, and all that economic impact. So what the film office is we're kind of tourism for the entertainment industry. I try to get you to make your movie here, your TV commercial here, your TV show here, your photo shoot, your music video, anything that falls under digital media. We are like tourism, but for a very small segment of the populations for the entertainment industry.
But yet an audience that's definitely growing here.
Growing, huge economic impact in the billions of dollars. Wow. And as and I lived in LA for 16 years, and my cousin was the deputy mayor, so I am very grateful to my time in LA there. I learned my craft there. Mm-hmm. So, but as people will tell you who shop there, the cost of doing business in LA is just not what it was when I moved there in '86. So I think there's a steady flow of creative young people moving here. And I really think Arizona is really poised to be not just a place where people come to shoot, but where we can create content. Mm-hmm. And part of my job is importing jobs. I try to get you to come here and not go to New Mexico or go to Utah or Colorado. And we've been successful at that, but obviously the real success is when we are generating content of our own.
Yeah. Working
with people who are already here. So I have 2 jobs. One is to convince you to come here if you don't live here, but more importantly, or as important, is support the people who are working so hard to try to make a living in the entertainment industry here. Mm-hmm. and give them the support and the resources to the best of my ability.
Absolutely. I love all of that. So you mentioned something about New Mexico mm-hmm. and Colorado. We might be on a smaller scale of Film Fest, but what sets Arizona apart from those 2 different locations?
I think it's still fresh and new for us. And that's ironic because we have this huge history of the film industry. We are one of the oldest film commissions. We say in our slogan that film was here in 1913, and I believe Arizona became a state in 1912. So we're very much film, and the westerns are very much a core of Arizona's identity, not just economically, but a lot of people know Arizona because they saw a John Ford movie, or they saw a John Wayne movie, or I'm a big Clint Eastwood fan, so they saw all those westerns and it was like, wow, this is very cool. And I think when people come to Arizona, they realize, while that is a huge part of our history, we are so much more than desert and cactus and a western town.
Absolutely. So with all of that, how did you get involved in the Arizona film scene?
I'd been here for 21 years, and when the things kind of slowed down, I was kind of thinking, am I gonna, I had a 10-year-old daughter, and I was wondering, well, it's very important to me to be that part of her life, but I was looking at, I need to make a living, and so I was thinking about going back to LA, actually. And by luck, I was talking to Bob Parsons' people about just the production landscape. And Steve Brain said, we're thinking of reopening the film office. They'd closed it in 2010, so this was 2016. And it just, before I could catch it, it came out, and I said, well, if you haven't picked someone, I'd love to throw my hat in the ring.
Oh, wow.
And I will be eternally grateful to Bob Parsons and Governor Ducey and Sandra Watson, the president and CEO of the Commerce Authority, that they were very supportive of my being in this position. So, and that has allowed me to stay here in a place where I love and buy a home here. And my daughter is 17, and hopefully we'll go to school locally.
Yeah, let's go to ASU, baby, right?
I don't want to jinx it. She is coming to the opening night party. And
we'll set the stage for her.
Right.
We'll make it look very amazing.
Oh, no, and it looks very amazing. We don't have to set the stage for that. But, I've found that if I push, I get the exact opposite. So it's kind of my job is to just put it there, because it is her decision, and she really doesn't need any input from me.
Absolutely.
So
she'll make the best choice.
She will make the best choice, but she's starting to come around, and, I'm like, well, you could keep your car,
Dad has the perks.
I'm not above bribery. If it'll keep my daughter here, I'm okay with that.
Bribe away, right?
Bribe away.
Awesome. Well, Matthew, let's reel it back a little bit. Before we got started, you kind of were giving me some background of yourself and who you are, and I kind of want to give the audience that little bit of history. So, born in New York, and can you guide me through, I know how you landed in Arizona, but take me through that journey.
So, born in New York, raised in suburban Connecticut, small town. Went to school in New Hampshire, and I came back to New York and was a corporate executive for a while. I was in advertising and thought I was going to do something creative, thought I was going to, write jingles and hang out with cool musicians, and I was wrong. And so I went to the client side, and then after a while I just realized there was a part of me, like in our conversation, there was a part of me that was not being tapped, and that was the desire to be creative. And so I, packed it up and went out to LA and was very briefly in front of the camera, but that talent really stopped with my father and brother. So, and they're a tough act to follow.
Well, let's tap in real quick. Who's your brother again?
So my father was Robert Earl Jones, who was a pioneer of the all-black cinema and was one of the first black actors to cross the color line. Probably best known as Luther in The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. And my half-brother is James Earl Jones, who probably needs no description of his credits. I mean, a cute story once back in the day when we had answering machines, and he had left a message inviting me for Christmas dinner. And at the end of the message, it goes on, and the end of the message goes, "This is your brother, James Earl." So I called back and I say, "Hey, can we bring something?" He goes, "No." And I said, "Oh, thank you for identifying yourself." I said, because I have so many brothers. And I said, I wouldn't recognize your voice unless, I don't know, I turned on CNN or The Lion King or Darth Vader or something like that. But I think that's really, I tell that story because he is an extremely humble and kind man. And he's one of the, and my father was the same. And so I think they really, I know my father and brother both feel very blessed to have been able to do something that they loved enough that at one point they did it for free.
Wow.
And to be able to support their family. So I try to remember that, we are trying to put out a good message. We're not saving the world for democracy. We do make an economic impact that is real. Mm-hmm. But at the best, the arts allow people to express their higher selves and their creativity, whether it's music, dance, theater, film, painting, whatever. So that's kind of how I ended up behind the camera.
So it's in your blood, through and through.
Through and through. And Jim and I made an agreement that he won't produce and I won't ruin the family name by trying to be an actor.
Oh, goodness. Well, it's never too late to start and try something new again, right?
No. What did Clint Eastwood would say? A man's got to know his limitations.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we are the City Limitless podcast, so I believe you are limitless.
Well, and I just saw a movie called Unsinkable, so I tend to believe that. But I have a very healthy respect for the people in the creative process. When I was a producer in LA, I took it that my job was to create a safe environment for them to do their craft. And that if I'd done my job well, no one knew I was there, but they felt supported, and so they had an environment where they could express their creativity. So I would like to say that that's kind of the philosophy I have.
Yeah.
Growing up in that environment.
Incredible. And the opportunity to pass it down to your daughter now, I'm sure.
She wants to be a lawyer.
Let her talk to me.
No, she I think
she'll find her creative side too.
And she is very creative, and she did some stuff. But if I were to press, then of course I was a corporate executive for a while because it was expected of me to be an actor. So I think it's really important to let people of all ages find their own path, because that's what they'll do well on. Mm-hmm. And obviously, if she wanted to be an entertainment lawyer, that would be good.
Bring it back to the family. There you go.
But whatever she wants to do is perfect.
I love that. So kind of just wrapping up here, bringing back to the Film Fest here in Mesa, what are some examples or even ways that the Mesa community can support bringing the Film Fest here year after year?
Well, I think you guys are already doing that. I mean, I think, I've had meetings with the mayor and the city council, and what I see is, and I'm not surprised because you have the Performing Arts Center and ASU and the Salt Mine, got to give a plug for my music buddies. But what I've seen throughout the state is that there's a real appreciation for film. No matter where I go, there's always some guy who's got a great story about there used to be a Western town and he was an extra on some John Wayne movie back in the day. I think, obviously, as the state film commissioner, I represent all the state, but I do think it's self-evident the effort that Mesa has put into supporting the arts. Mm-hmm. Most recently, obviously, with the Mix Center, which is a world-class environment. Students, they certainly didn't have that when I was going to college. Not that I went to film school, but that did not exist. So I think that the fact that it is here is very fitting. I think the fact that young people can have a world-class experience, and the benefit of that is usually there is very little translation from the academic world to the real world. So you'll be in an academic world and you walk onto a set of 100 people and it can be overwhelming. So I think what students are getting through the ASU program and here in Mesa is they're actually getting as close to the real world while still being in a sheltered environment of academics. And I think that means that there's a real chance that the students coming out of the film school and coming from Mesa will be prepared not only to enter the industry, but to be leaders in the industry. And that's what we need. We need all the talented young people with those diverse ideas. And, creativity is always a function of the youth.
Yeah.
If you're producing, it helps to have made a few mistakes on someone else's dime. But creativity, I would say that people in Arizona are as creative as any place in the world. So I think the fact that they can practice their craft in a world-class environment, their transition into the professional ranks, I won't say it'll be seamless because it's never seamless because the stakes are much higher, but they will be familiar with the equipment, they'll be familiar with on-set operations, they'll understand what is expected of them. And I think that's a huge advantage that ASU has, Mesa has, and obviously the state of Arizona has.
Beautiful.
So.
That is Yeah, we are very lucky to have ASU
Very lucky.
downtown Mesa. Me growing up here, that was never even a thought, and it's a beautiful campus. So we are very thankful to have that down here. Well, let's wrap it up. What do you see for the future of the Mesa Film Festival?
Well, I hope that it goes and goes and goes and gets bigger and bigger. I think that its director has done an amazing job. I know he's got support from the city. I've been to the festivals, I've been to the award ceremonies, and you see city government right there, and that's crucial. And so I think that with the support of the city and obviously the support of the Mix Center and ASU and just the community at large, because I think this spreads to a greater Mesa. I mean, Mesa is huge. I mean, it goes.
And we're only growing.
Right. And it, you know, I really think that this could be one of those hubs for where the industry lands. I had the honor to speak to somebody who pretty much wrote the book when I first took this job, and I asked him, if you were me, what would you do? And he said, Arizona needs a hub for the business to land, for the industry to land. And that's usually how things happen. And I think that Mesa is, you know, I've talked to people about a desire to possibly put a studio here. I think the city government is very proactive and recognizes the economic impact of the entertainment industry. And also with the Performing Arts Center, I think Mesa has realized that arts and entertainment and culture go a long way to elevate any city and to attract people who enjoy a really great quality of life. And so I think if everybody keeps doing what they're doing, I see nothing but blue skies ahead.
I love it.
So.
Well, Matthew Earl Jones, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day.
My pleasure.
And if you get to sneak in to any of those movies, I hope you enjoy them. Otherwise, I'm sure a link to seeing them would even be great
a
too.
link to see them. Yes, unfortunately, it is part of my day job to represent, and I enjoy that. And so in a film festival, it's obviously a great environment to do that.
Thank you again for coming in and sitting down with us to chat about the Mesa Film Fest. We are so excited that we were able to have you.
It was my pleasure. Anytime.
All right, guys, that's a wrap with the City Limitless podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. Check out all of our social media platforms. And for footage behind the scenes, head to our YouTube channel. We'll see you guys soon.
That's what I feel, free.